Oh, here goes, and welcome to the 77th episode of Throwback Hoops. Woody V is in the house, and as always, please follow the show on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. And it's a very happy birthday, 45th birthday. Welcome to my main man, Robbie Clayton. Not just from myself, but from Skittles as well, man. Happy birthday, brother.
Thanks, mate. It's nice to have you both joining me today. I hope Skittles is doing okay as well after a surgery. But yeah, feeling pretty old today, Woods. Hit the big 45. So playing a game tonight as well. So I'm sure my old bones will be feeling it tomorrow morning. But no, looking forward to chop it up with you, mate.
Age is just a number, bro. Age is just a number.
That's right.
Now, I'm sorry that we're in a slightly different position today on my usual recording area. As you just mentioned, Skittles just got desexed, so she's in a little bit of pain. So I just want to be able to keep an eye on her. With the wife out of the house, so just if we have to potentially have a little bit of a pause during the show, I apologize in advance. Okay?
Was that like a dog joke with pause or no?
Well, yeah. Now that you said that, right?
Nice.
All right, man. Without further ado, let's get into it. Now, you did tell me offline that we hadn't actually rocked many New Jersey jerseys on the show.
Yeah.
So.
What's interesting was, I've got a bit of a spreadsheet that I've been keeping with all the jerseys we've actually been showing there. So I think a bit of a shout out to both of us. We've shown every NBA team. So there hasn't been any teams we haven't shown a jersey from across our 77 episodes. But I did notice we haven't had many New Jersey Nets ones. So I thought no better than do a bit of a double today, right? So look, I'll start, and there happened to be two lefties as well, which I thought was pretty cool. So two people that people will remember from the 90s there. So I'll start off with that jersey hanging behind me there, Woods. I decided to wear one today that's in slightly better condition. But the one I'm hanging is a Kenny Anderson blue Nets champion jersey. So just a little bit on the man they call Mr. Chibs. Played 14 seasons in the NBA after being drafted out of Georgia Tech by the Nets at pick 2 in the 91 draft. So I know that's a draft we've showcased several jerseys of players so far there, Wood. So he went on to have a good career. I'm going to call it a good career. Playing with the Nets. There's a few teams here as well. Charlotte Hornets, Blazers, Celtics, Sonics, New Orleans Hornets, Pacers, our Hawks, remember that? And the Clippers. But, of course, his best years were early on in New Jersey. Look, I reckon Kenny Anderson probably never lived up to his amazing potential that he had. The New York City legend battled a number of sort of issues, personal issues. He had some alcohol problems. Later on, as he was sort of getting out of the game, had a lot of financial issues as well throughout his career. But he was good enough to make the 1994 NBA All-Star game, Woods, which was really his only accolades in the pros. Had some pretty good college sort of records as well. So Kenny Anderson's now 52 and was the subject of a really good doco called Mr. Chibs that came out in 2017. So I'd really encourage anyone that hasn't watched that doco to watch it. I found it really interesting and, to be honest, and at times quite sad as well, but it was quite interesting hearing about him. So some of the maybe the younger viewers or listeners that aren't aware of his history there, strongly recommend you checking that out. So I'll stand up and show you the one I'm wearing. So it's exactly the same jersey but a different player. It's one number less than the age I turned yesterday, but anyway, I'll show you what I'm rocking.
And Robbie and I both own this same champion Nets 44 DC Derrick Coleman jersey. What a jersey. What a player.
Love me some Derrick Coleman back in the day.
Me too, bro. Me too.
Yeah. So, look, a little bit on DC. He was drafted out of Syracuse by the Nets at pick 1 in the 1990 draft, so a couple of seasons before Anderson there. Went on to have a successful yet really injury-plagued 15-year NBA career. So ended up playing less games than Kenny Anderson, even though he was drafted a couple of years earlier. Look, he played with the Nets, 76ers, Hornets, actually finished up with Woodsy, if you remember this, with the Pistons, and where he was involved in that infamous Malice in the Palace in 2004. Yep. So I'd almost forgotten about that. So interesting, 15-year career. Hadn't played for a lot of teams there, but look, I think the big man will be remembered as being a highly skilled player. Some pretty decent accolades. He was an NBA All-Star in 94, so actually the same year as Kenny Anderson. They both made it that year. He was a two-time NBA All-Third Team. Of course, he was the NBA Rookie of the Year in 1991. So, look, he's now 55, lives in Detroit, where he's involved with a number of charities and food programs to help the underprivileged. So I guess it's two guys we probably don't think a whole lot about. Maybe that Kenny Anderson doco sort of, reminded a few people about him. But Derrick Coleman's not someone you hear a lot about. What were your memories on maybe both these guys, Woods?
Kenny Anderson, you talk about like someone who had a lot of, hearsay and talk about him before he got into the NBA. This guy was a legend on the streets of New York, right?
Yeah.
You put him up there with Mark Jackson, Rod Strickland, all those guys that they were talking about. I talk about New York City point guards a lot. This guy was probably one of the most infamous and one that everyone thought would go on to be a Hall of Famer, multiple-time All-Star, and as you said, he never lived up to those expectations. Derrick Coleman was just great because I just started getting into the game of basketball when he was drafted, right? 1990 pick one, correct?
1990 pick one, yep.
Yes, correct. And look, I just had all his cards, that 1990 hoop set that I love so much. I had his rookie, I still have it somewhere, his rookie card. And so I just got to watch him play in those early years. Played alongside Drazen Petrovic, obviously, on that Nets team.
There's a bit of talk about that they thought that could have really been a big three, obviously, and such a sad thing that happened to Drazen there and the car accident there. But it's obviously that big three that never sort of got to eventuate there. But I can't help but think that DC would be really suited in today's modern game there, Woods, with just his big man skills and his shooting ability.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's some similarities there with the Lamar Odom, right? Not just because they're both left-handers and bold. I mean, Lamar Odom's probably a better playmaker, but there's some similarities between each other's games. I definitely would have translated. As he said, he was a great shooter from the center position, which wasn't a must in the game at that time, right?
Yeah.
And he also represented, I think, at a World Cup, he would have represented, I think, 94 maybe. He represented.
World Championship, I think, the same year. I know Dominique was on that same team.
94 maybe.
So, it would have been 94, 98. Yeah, you're right. So, 92, and the year in between the second dream team. So, 94 he represented. So, a bit of a trip down memory lane. I love these old champion ones as well. There's some nice colours popping on this one. This one here, you can see the condition it's in, Woods. It's absolutely pristine condition. The other one's got a few little issues with it, but anyway.
Well, I was just saying when you stood up that I've got the exact same jersey, right? The Coleman one.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
The
it's
champion
not often
one.
We have a matching jerseys. And I can see you're rocking an absolutely random one today that I actually guessed from the number there, but I reckon a lot of people wouldn't. So I want to take that one away.
No worries.
So Woods is standing up with the lovely Skittles behind him there, rocking a number 10, Houston Rockets, Chase Budinger jersey. There's probably a few people that are maybe saying who when I said that, but Chase Budinger.
Got the little rat's tail as well, man. I don't know if you like that or not.
Yeah, I like it, mate.
Nice, man. So Chase Budinger had a storied college career. He was picked with the 44th overall pick in the second round of the 2009 NBA draft by the Detroit Pistons. And he got traded to the Houston Rockets on draft night, where he spent his first 3 seasons. Then he moved to Minnesota, Indiana, Phoenix, before a short stint in Spain. Before actually deciding to retire from basketball and make a career change and take up beach volleyball professionally. Now, I'll get to that in a second. But his highlights and awards that he achieved in college were quite impressive, right? He was a Pac-10 Freshman of the Year, first team All Pac-10. He was a McDonald's All-American, California Mr. Basketball in 2006. So, we also had the White Man Can Jump preview on last week's episode, you'll recall, right? In one of those dunk contests, he dressed up as Woody Harrelson, right? And do you remember that?
Yeah, I certainly remember in the dunk comp. Yeah, I forgot about him doing that one there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of what gave me the inspiration to wear this jersey today, because we just were talking about White Man Can Jump, and I remembered that him dressing up as Billy, right? So
it's interesting. I don't remember those last couple of teams you mentioned. Like, I don't really remember him with Phoenix there. Certainly remember his time with Minnesota and of course with Houston there. But yeah, it's interesting. I felt like he had some pretty good years early on. So I wonder what the actual motivation was with that career change. And obviously there's a lot more money to be made in the NBA than there is in beach volleyball. But yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was running out of opportunities, right, to play. I mean, that last season with Phoenix, he only played 17 games and averaged 11.8 minutes per game, right? So I don't know how much time he would have had left in the NBA. I mean, he did survive for 6-7 seasons, so that's more than the average. But 2017, as I said, he decided to retire from basketball and focus on playing beach volleyball. He made his debut on the AVP Tour in 2018. And he's been playing ever since, and he's become so good that he's very close to actually qualifying for the 2024 Olympics as a member of the United States men's beach volleyball team. So
very cool.
The transition has actually been a successful one for him. He wouldn't have been able to represent the country at the Olympics as a basketball player. So that's a really nice story. Right?
I've got to say, Woods, that jersey is right down our alley too, isn't it? We love these random sort of jerseys that maybe people are going to see from the front, like, who is that? And kind of look around the back, and yeah, that kind of sums that up. So yeah, I've always liked that one. Good choice today.
Thanks, man. All right, so let's get into it. Some really nice jerseys today. Let's talk about the NBA Finals. So after a lot of waiting, and Denver's been waiting for a while, we finally found out that the Miami Heat are going to be the contenders for the title against Denver in a 7-game series. Maybe let's just start with Game 6, right? Because since we've last spoken, Game 6 has happened.
Yeah.
Huge game. Now, Boston played 3 terrible games, were down 3-0, and then played almost 3 perfect games, right? On their quest to create history and come from 3-0 down to win a series in 7 games. It's never been done before. And in that 6th game, they played 3 perfect quarters. In fact, with about 4 minutes left, they were ahead by 10 points, right? And they blew that lead, and Jimmy Butler was fouled with about 2.5 seconds left on the clock. And down by 2, 3 shots by Al Horford, pretty bad foul. With ice in his veins, he knocked down those 3 free throws to put Miami up by 1. 2.5 seconds left on the clock. Inbound pass from the big forward, Derrick White, to Marcus Smart, who put up a shot that nearly went in, and Derrick White ran straight to the bucket. Tapped the ball in with about 1/10 of a second left, right? So within minutes, within seconds of being into that NBA Finals in 6 games, Miami found that they'd have to go back to Boston to get it done in Game 7. We'll get to that in a second. What were your thoughts on Game 6?
Look, remarkable, wasn't it? It was one of those games. I was still hyped up for a couple of hours after that. And it is strange. I mean, probably, keen viewers will know that I'm not a massive fan of this current Miami team, but I felt like I was cheering on both teams in that 4th quarter. I just was really appreciating the back and forth there. So many just pivotal plays there. Obviously those two missed threes from Duncan Robinson there.
Yes.
Especially that one where he took the bounce there. Those ones never go in. When someone has that much time when they take a bounce, I always feel like those ones miss there. He obviously took that. Some people might say an ill-advised 3, the one he took from quite far out.
Bad shot.
Yeah, it probably was a bad shot, but I think they probably backed him there. He's certainly a good shooter. And
he'd been making them all night.
He had been making them. It was pretty good throughout the series there. But, yeah, just found it a really exciting game. Kudos to Derrick White for getting in there and getting that rebound. I called it as soon as it went up. I'm like, that counts like that. And I think the commentators maybe initially didn't think it did, and then obviously the refs consulted there and worked out that it was. But yeah, really good game, and I was probably glad that it did go to a Game 7. But yeah, I've got a few thoughts about that. But yeah, what were your thoughts on the Game 7 and everything?
Oh, well, what that reminded me of, let's just go back to Game 6. In that very same building, 2013, San Antonio had basically wrapped up the NBA Finals. And then Ray Allen hit that shot, right? And then you thought, in the very same stadium, ironically, right, in a Game 6, and you thought there's no way that the San Antonio Spurs, after losing that game, after almost having the title in their hands, would be able to close out that Game 7, right?
Yeah.
You thought Miami would do it for sure. And I felt that same way. I thought they'd be shot, but Eric Spoelstra came straight after the game in the press conference. What did he say? We're ready to play this game now. We want to play now, right? And he instilled confidence in that team, as did Jimmy Butler. And going into Boston in Game 7, they'd already won two games in Boston this series. Yeah. So they backed themselves. And the reason why no one has ever done it before is come back from 3-0 down to win a series is because it's difficult, to win 4 games on the bounce after being down, and almost out of it. So, Miami went into Boston and gave them a belting, won by 20-odd points.
It wasn't much of a game, was it? I was sort of following on my phone. I was working that day, and I was sort of looking forward to initially watching it that night. It wasn't even really a contest, was it? I think Miami just continued to grow those leads there. It seemed like every time Boston made a bit of a run in that game, it was either Caleb Martin or Jimmy Butler that would hit a big shot. Boston would get it back to 6 or 7 or 8 points, and then one of those guys, Martin or Butler, would hit a big shot there and push it out to 10 points again. And in the end, I felt like they really did deserve it. Honestly, Woods, I thought the coaching in this series was just a massive, massive advantage to Miami there. I've always really respected Eric Spoelstra for a coach. I'm not sure whether it maybe made him look better in that game, but I think Missoula, honestly, he was terrible. I don't like to blame a lot of things on coaches there, but a couple of things I noticed there, Woods, he seemed to have no plan B the whole series there, which I couldn't quite work out. Not just the lack of turnovers, and that's been well documented there that he probably should call a few more timeouts at pivotal moments. But the big thing for me was that zone defense that Miami was playing, right? So they were playing that all throughout that series there, and Missoula just didn't seem to have any answer for that zone defense there. That's the thing when you play these teams in multiple games there, you've got to be able to adjust on the fly, have a plan B there. And he just didn't seem to be able to do that. And Boston just continued just to miss those three-pointers. Jaylen Brown, who I want to touch on a little bit in a moment there, he shot, I believe, 15% from the three-point land in that whole series there. So he may have cost himself a few bucks, actually, based on that. Considering he was a second team All-NBA player, Woods, which was a bit of a shock, to be honest. But we know a lot of players in his position probably were injured this year, and that's maybe why he got in, because he played most of the season there. But, yeah, I thought the coaching made a really big part. Was your sort of thoughts on that the same? Or?
Well, let's give him a little bit of credit, right? When they were down 3-0, right, everyone was out for him, His head was on the chopping block. So for him to make a few adjustments and bring back that series to 3-all, you got to give him a little bit of credit, for making some improvements. But at the end of that Game 7, he was asked a question, do you think that your team is too reliant on that three-point shot? He's like, no, right? They shot 20% from the field. As you said, they had no plan B. Charles Barkley, people that he has opinions and whatnot, but he's so knowledgeable when you actually listen to him to speak. And he was on the panel and he's saying, you've got to have some other option. They're taking ill-advised three-point shots. They're not falling, right? Coach Missoula, it's his responsibility to come up with different options to put his players in positions to be successful. And the idea of just coming in willy-nilly, jacking up random threes, some terrible shots actually in that Game 7, right? That's showing a lack of maturity, right? So I agree with you on Coach Missoula. He needs a plan B. I know it's important to shoot threes in the new NBA, right? But at the same point, you've got to be able to mix it up, right? Take an open three, one that's in rhythm. You saw Jimmy Butler catching and shooting, right? In that he doesn't take many three-point shots, but when he finds one that's in rhythm, it's a good shot, he's going to take it, right? That was the difference you could see. And yeah, I know you're going to touch on Jaylen Brown in a minute, but let's talk a little bit about Caleb Martin. This guy was just working out in J. Cole's gym. J. Cole gave a call to Jimmy Butler, his mate, and said, man, you got to look at this guy. And, he signed a 2-way deal last year after almost being out of the league. And 5 votes to 4 for that Eastern Conference MVP, right?
Yeah,
so,
it couldn't have been any closer. And I don't think anyone would have been disappointed at all if he had been named that Eastern Conference MVP. He was just great throughout the series, wasn't he? He was like the guy I said, especially in most of the games, actually, he always had that answer there. If Boston were ever making runs there, he was doing it on both ends of the court. His shooting was just great throughout the series, good decision-making. I think he's still got 1 year of that pretty small contract to go, but he's definitely earned a bit of a raise in the future based on that. I think he was waived, as I said, from the Hornets, and then obviously found his way at Miami there. So a great effort there, and it was good to see a success story like that. And it's just that next man mentality for Miami, wasn't it? It's been well documented, obviously, all the undrafted players there, but Duncan Robinson had some really good moments in the series. Gabe Vincent early on was good. And everyone sort of seemed to step up when they needed to there, which is interesting because I thought probably their second best player in Bam Adebayo. I don't think he was that great in that series, to be honest. I think he was good maybe in the first couple of games and then seemed to get a little bit worse as the series went along there. Full credit to Martin there. And he's going to be a really important player in these finals.
Yeah, we'll get into Bam in a second. I think he'll have more success against Denver. Speaking of Duncan Robinson,
I'm not sure I do, but we'll debate that after. Yeah.
I was just listening to the Old Man and the Three, JJ Redick's podcast, and Duncan Robinson was on it today. Have you heard it yet?
I haven't heard it yet. No.
Okay. So he made a very great point. He's like, there's no agendas on this team, right? And he spoke about Kevin Love and how he was talking to Kevin Love on the plane after the game on the way to Denver. They went straight to Denver apparently after that win in Boston, and he said like someone like Kevin Love, who was part of the rotation, right? In the start of the series, and now he doesn't even play anymore. He's sitting on the end of the bench. The kind of support and cheering for the next man, right, and the way he's taken it in his stride, what he's brought to this team, that veteran leadership. I've spoken about on previous episodes with Udonis Haslam, Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, but even Kevin Love joining this team. Duncan Robinson was glowing in his praise for him. So I think this team is
I love
no
to hear
agendas.
that Woods being a Kevin Love man as well. So that's great to see that he's sort of settled and just playing whatever role they need him to on that. Who knows? He might play a little bit more in the finals.
All right, before we move on to the finals, you mentioned Boston, right? What's next for them? Coach Mazzulla, Jaylen Brown. Talk to me.
I think the whole coaching staff will be changed. I mean, it's kind of been well documented. The assistants there are kind of a bunch of no-names there. So I wouldn't be surprised if they clean house there, get a new head coach. Obviously, you want to get onto that soon because a lot of these coaches that are out there are starting to find teams. But I think they've got a big choice to make whether they think that Tatum and Brown are that combo or that duo going forward that can ultimately lead them to championships there. Because as I said, Tatum was first team All NBA, Brown was second team, so you'd think based on that you would. I'm just not quite sure whether that's the right combination of players, whether you need like a bigger guy with that or a natural point guard or whatever it is. Interestingly, Woods, I've heard quite a few rumours this week that they reckon if Boston don't end up giving him that max contract, which he's going to be wanting to get there, they could be considering a sign and trade with our Hawks. So I thought that was quite interesting to hear that. Not quite sure who the Hawks would need to give up to get him there. I could maybe see like a John Collins, DeAndre Hunter, and maybe a first-round draft pick or something like that. I'm not sure if that's enough or how that works. But obviously early days, Boston's got a lot to sort of consider there. Brad Stevens in the front office. Who knows whether he'll come back down into the coaching seat there and see what they do there. But look, it's not like a failure. They made the finals last year, they made the conference finals and lost in a game 7 this year. But you just wonder whether that's kind of that their peak there if they can continue to go on from there. I think.
Yeah, well, just an interesting stat about Jaylen Brown. He's now got almost as many turnovers as assists in playoff basketball.
That's something I wanted to say as well, Woods. The bloke can't dribble. He cannot dribble the basketball. It is really strange, isn't it? He's obviously got a lot of talent. He's a skilled player. He seems like a smart guy that would sort of work on, aspects of his game that he doesn't that he needs improving on there. But his ball handling is absolutely terrible. You can't even put the ball on the floor and take 2 dribbles without doing something wrong with it. So very strange, very strange.
Yeah, very strange. So let's see how that plays out. Any chance that Tatum doesn't stay at Boston?
No, I think they've kind of given him the keys now. I definitely think he's got some flaws in his game as well, Tatum, at the moment. I think some of the shots he chucked up, was it you that called him a fake Kobe Bryant, or someone said that on one of our chats the other day, but it seems like he just, some of these fadeaway threes he's taking and stuff like that, it's almost like he's watched a bit too much of Kobe as a kid and tries to emulate some of that, and clearly isn't Kobe there. He's an amazing player, don't get me wrong. He's one of the, he was an all-NBA team. I think he's definitely a top 10 player in the NBA, but yeah, I think I'll definitely keep him. I think Brown could maybe be the odd man out, or whether they just decide to give it one more run and bring it all back there. Because I think Brogdon was probably a big loss in that series. He was playing hurt, missed a couple of games. I think a healthy Brogdon might have been, made a difference as well there.
And obviously that injury to Tatum on the first play in Game 7 had a little bit of an impact. But
maybe you've got to play through those things, though. Yeah.
As you said, Miami's been decimated by injuries as well. Tyler Hero will probably be looking at coming back by Game 3 of the finals. So let's talk about the finals. Miami versus Denver. What are your thoughts? Can Miami... Miami, we've said every series so far, like, they don't have what it takes, and they've proved us wrong. So
I feel like I don't want to say anything bad about Miami because you're absolutely right. Look, it's pretty historic, isn't it? And I think either way, I'm looking forward to this final series. We've got a team like Denver that's never won it, and then we've got a team like Miami that was, in the play-in tournament, lost to our Hawks. They were losing in the fourth quarter against Chicago with a couple of minutes left, and then won that game, and then they've just basically had upset series after upset series 3 times in a row now. So I want to respect them. Maybe we'll give our prediction sort of at the end of this bit there. But look, I am looking forward to it. I do worry for Miami a little bit with the Joker there. I was sort of looking through some previous stats there, and he's really dominated Bam over the previous sort of couple of years with matchups there. Look, he does dominate most people there, but Bam's a pretty undersized big there, so I'm just not sure what else they can do to play on the Joker there. Do you try and give Kevin Love some minutes there? He's not really known for his defense. You probably have to just to try and mix things up a little bit there. I know teams have liked playing some of those undersized, strong sort of guys on someone like the Joker. So
you got Cody Zeller there as well, right?
Yeah, on that Cody Zeller. Yeah, you could maybe give him a go. I think they've kind of liked, teams have liked playing, like a Jay Crowder type or someone that's a bit stronger but a bit smaller, lower center of gravity there. So I can see the Joker having a bit of a field day there, but certainly like some of the matchups there. The rest versus Rusting, I think, is going to be really interesting for Denver. This will be a longer break than probably they even had during the All-Star break, which is just strange this time of year. So obviously it gets some of their players with some niggles and everything healthy, but also the rust kicks in as well there. So it would not shock me to see Miami come and win game one, to be honest. Yeah, as I said, really looking forward to it. I do think there is some good matchups there. And I think that's probably a big one you mentioned there, Woods. Tyler Hero potentially coming back in game three. The only other sort of thing I had sort of on my notes as well, I guess who did Denver look to play on Jimmy Butler there? And probably my thoughts would be a little bit of a mix of Brown and KCP there.
KCP.
KCP is obviously a great defender there. So I think they've probably got the bodies that can maybe slow down Jimmy a little bit there. And you wonder how Butler's going to go. He's been playing big minutes throughout all these series there, whether his body will hold up and everything like that. But what's your thoughts on the matchup?
Yeah, look, I think that Bam has been dominated by the Joker, right, in previous matchups. I checked that, but just the way they play defense is slightly different to Boston, Denver, in the way they guard the pick and roll. So I think that Al Horford and Robert Williams were tough for Bam. So I think Bam might have a little bit of a bounce back. I was telling you offline, some days he can be one of the best centers in the league, and another day he could look like Tristan Thompson. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's see how it plays out. I just have a feeling that he, those guys are more defensively inclined in terms of who I just mentioned from Boston. They're big men. The problem is no one's on the defensive end. Like Bam's decent, right? He can probably, as you said, give something to Joker, but he can't play 48 minutes. So they're going to have to go into their big man rotation with Love or Zeller as we spoke about before, and that's where I really think that it's going to be tough for
I think
Miami.
Bam's a good team defender, Woods. I'm not sure he's like probably the individual one-on-one. Like he doesn't even average one block a game.
He's not a great rim protector.
Exactly right. Exactly. He's a system kind of defender there. One stat I thought was pretty interesting, I'm sure you saw as well. Pat Riley, Woods, that stat that this will basically be 25% of the all NBA finals that he's either been part of as a player, a coach, or in the front office there. So that's a remarkable stat there from old Slick Rick, Pat Riley there.
Yeah, and look, it's testament to him and the kind of culture that he's been building across, New York, LA, and Miami, right?
Yeah,
great
absolutely.
teams,
Tough teams.
Great high character individuals in the front office, coaching staff, and on those teams, right?
Yeah,
so, shout out to him.
Well, should we give a prediction? Maybe should we?
Yes, I was about to get into it. Yeah. So let's do that.
Right. Yeah. I've been thinking about this today. Part of me wants to say 4-1, but I'm just going to give Miami that extra game because I haven't been sort of respecting him so far this playoff. So I'm going to say Denver 4-2. My prediction.
Yep, same.
Okay.
Yep, and you did say it was going to be a sweep of 5 games with Miami and Boston, remember?
I think I might have said that nearly every series, and I think probably a lot of people have now, so that's why I'm sort of giving them that little bit of extra credit there. Look, as I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they do get one of those 2 games in Denver there. Might not be the first. We'll see. Obviously, Denver will come out a bit fresher, how they'll adjust to the altitude and everything there, but, they're veterans and they're a smart team there, so I'm sure they'll have a lot of ideas for that. But I just hope it's a good series, though, Woods. Unfortunately for us in Australia, there's only one game that falls on a weekend. One. So
now we've got a long weekend next weekend,
man. It's not on there either.
Is it? No.
So one game, even with the long weekend, we still.
That's this Sunday, right?
No, it's I think game 4, which is not this Saturday, the Saturday after. So basically, game 1's Friday, game 2's Monday, then we've got another midweek, and then a Saturday.
Right.
So
Saturday the 10th, you mean? Yeah.
Something like that, yeah. So annoying timing that we've only got one, during non-work days. But I just hope it's a good series and we finish off the year well.
Well, let's just say this one thing, right? If Miami do somehow win the NBA championship, all those things you mentioned, that play-in versus the Hawks, almost being down to losing to Chicago to get to that 8th seed.
Yeah.
It'll be one of the greatest sporting achievements across any sport ever in the history,
it
right?
Really would. Great.
Even getting to the final here has been ridiculous, right?
No. Hats off to him for sure.
All right, cool. Really excited. Game 1 kicks off tomorrow at 10:30 our time, I think, if I'm mistaken.
Yeah, so we'll probably, by the time we get this up tomorrow, game 1 might have finished there, so we'll be able to see if anything we spoke sort of makes sense there. But yeah, really looking forward to that game 1 tomorrow.
All right, awesome. So let's just move on to a few quick headlines that I want to discuss, Robbie. While we're on the topic of the finals, great opportunity for Jack White, our Australian. I know he's been a fellow Australian. I know he's been a two-way player, but being part of this Nugget setup in the locker room and getting to experience this deep playoff run, it's only going to do wonders for him, and it'll be a great experience, right?
Yeah, definitely, and I think he seems to really be enjoying his time there. I mean, of course, playing behind some greats in the game, especially the Joker there, who, an absolute legend of the game. The way he's going to end up there, so yeah, great to see Jack White doing that. I hope he gets like a better opportunity next season as perhaps part of the roster. But no, it's good to see him. Potentially a chance to get a ring.
Terrific. Yep. Bob Myers leaves Golden State.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? I sort of thought about that today, actually. There's, I guess, that core of those Warriors guys that have been there for a while. So, whether it's Steve Kerr coaching, Bob Myers in the front office there, and then, of course, your Draymonds, your Clays, and your Currys there. So, look, we know Curry's never going to leave their woods. He's going to be there for quite a while. But I just wonder whether Myers going is maybe that first domino that's going to start to fall for this aging team now. I think Draymond can opt out of his deal next month if he decides what he's going to do there. I think Kerr and Clay have both got 1 year remaining. So interesting to see what these guys have got in mind there. On that, I reckon the Golden State should potentially look at trading Clay while he's still got a little bit of value, because I think you can see the way his injuries have affected him. He could go downhill quite fast. He may still have some currency now, but no, full credit to Bob Myers. He had some amazing time there. It doesn't look like he's going to be joining another team soon from the quotes I've read there. He was saying he just doesn't have that time and I guess energy at the moment to sort of commit to a role like this. So it might be the sort of thing you see him have a year or two off, and then he'll pop up in a good situation somewhere else.
Yep. I mean, 4 championships in tenure there, so hats off to him and what he's achieved, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let's talk about the NBA coaching carousel. A lot of changes have been lately. Let's start off with the one that's just been announced with Monty Williams signing on for 6 years with the Detroit Pistons.
Hot off the press, right? Yeah, so what are we, Thursday the 1st of June? Big money. That was the first thing I thought, and obviously quite a lengthy contract there. But, I think he's got a pretty good reputation around the league. He is good with younger players there, and obviously we know Detroit's got a whole team of young guys, some potentially guys that haven't lived up to their billing there, some high draft pick type people. So, I think that's a pretty good move there. He was always going to get another contract pretty quick there. So, congratulations on Coach Monty.
And a great development coach as well, because, when he took on the Phoenix Suns, they're mainly a young team, right? And he's taken them to where they are now. So working with the likes of Cade Cunningham and co is going to be, Marvin Bagley, it's going to be good for him, right?
And we know he's had some rough years, like, personally and everything else like that. So, wish him all, but, nothing but success in that tough situation in Detroit.
Yep, no problem. Good call. I like it, Robbie. All right, let's talk about Philly. Nick Nurse. What do you think?
So Doc out, Nurse in, right?
That's right.
Great headline, that one.
Yeah.
So, look, to be honest, all those coaches that, of those teams that sort of got knocked out early in the finals, he was the one for me that I, if I was trying to build a team, I would have gone after first. I would have picked him over Monty. I would have picked him over, Coach Budenholzer there. So I actually think it's a really good move for Philly there. I think he was the best name on the market there. I like the style that he coaches there. I think he's got some great tactics and everything else like that. And maybe he's that change that Philly need there. Obviously, Doc's been there for a while. Sometimes, these coaches can wear out their welcome, when they've been there for a while. But I think it's going to be, an interesting combination. Not quite sure what's going to happen with their players there in terms of guys like Harden and that. But I could see Nurse working well with Embiid. And, I think that's a really good move for Philly.
Yeah, well, a couple of things there. James Harden, there's rumor has it that the reason that Doc Rivers isn't there anymore is because James Harden basically forced him out. Have you heard that through the grapevine?
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
So I'm thinking that now that Nurse is in, James Harden might come back, right? I think Nurse would be the perfect coach for someone like James Harden. But also Nurse looked tired in Toronto this year, right? So I thought that, he wouldn't be ready to jump straight into a coaching job. I know what you said. He's the type of guy you'd want to, build your organization around a coach like that with his theories and the way he runs things as a leader. But do you think he's ready to jump into a coaching role straight away?
I do, and I think probably it was that situation there. I'm not sure, if Detroit had any contact with him. I'm not sure he was maybe ready for a kind of a rebuilding or a young team like that. I think he probably wanted a team that's a contender. So whether it was a Milwaukee or a Philly or someone like that, but yeah, I think he'd probably be up for the challenge. Yeah.
Yep. And you think Harden's going to come back now?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah, a lot of people are saying he may go back to Houston. Look, I'll say yes, he will come back, and they'll try and run it back with a new coach.
Well, while you just mentioned Houston, let's talk about that. I know this was announced a little bit of time ago, but Udoka taking over at Houston.
Yeah,
it's almost like all that stuff that happened in Boston was swept under the rug, right?
Yeah, I still don't think we know the full story of what's happened there, and it definitely seems to have been more that happened there than probably what was let on there. Look, Boston probably wish they had Udoka in that Eastern Conference Finals. To be honest, I think he's a good coach.
Yep, definitely.
And look, he's obviously going to be mentoring a really young team in Houston as well. There, he's had a year out of the game to probably refresh himself and think about life a little bit there. So, no, I think that's a good signing for those young Rockets.
Yep, awesome. And then Adrian Griffin to the Bucks. That one surprised me a little bit, right?
Yeah, it's good to see him. Obviously, we remember his playing career quite well. First thing I thought of when I heard that is like he better not steal AJ from the Hawks there. So
Yep.
For those that don't know, obviously AJ Griffin's his son. A player that I'm really liking already. The rookie going into his second year next year for the Hawks, AJ Griffin. But yeah, Adrian Griffin, I think he's done his time, hasn't he? He's had quite some good assistant roles over the time there. So it's a pretty good situation to go to Milwaukee. I know obviously they've got a couple of guys, Brook Lopez and Chris Middleton, who are out of contracts. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. But you're going to a team with Giannis there, and I think he's signed for another year at least. It's a pretty good situation, right?
Yeah, definitely. No, I like that hire, and as you said, you spoke of Giannis. He's definitely improved with this hiring as well, which is important that your star players on board, right?
Yeah.
And finally, we've got Toronto and we've got Phoenix looking for head coaches. What's next for Doc Rivers? I mean, could someone like him pick up one of those jobs, or you think that he needs a break?
He seems like one of those guys that probably needs to keep coaching, if you know what I mean. I'm not sure he will. I know he's a golfer and those sort of things. He has commentated before, but yeah, look, it would not shock me if he got that Phoenix role, to be honest.
Yep.
I think I did hear some rumours they were looking at potentially getting a younger type coach there, and we've seen a few teams having younger coaches over the last few years. Maybe that's the way to go there, but I think he'll be trying to get one of these roles for sure.
Yeah, I've heard Frank Vogel's name thrown out there as well. Any other names you're hearing?
No, like there was, like an assistant I think they had last year. I did hear one of the names off. His name escapes me now, but yeah, wouldn't be surprised if they, some of those players have a lot to say in Phoenix in terms of who the coach is. They'll probably be going to Devin Booker and KD and saying, right, what type of coach do you want us to get for you there? So it might be the players potentially selecting who they get there.
Yep, we'll see how that plays out over the coming months, right? Okay, let's move on to a couple of NBL signings that happened last week. Let's start with your Perth Wildcats, right? New Zealand talented youngster Dante Rusco Nance. Tell me, what do you know about him?
Yeah, look, I didn't know much about him. I had heard the name before he was signed, but I've certainly checked out some of his highlight tapes in the last week. And yeah, he looks an exciting prospect there. It's amazing how many Kiwis we've got on this roster now, Wood. So that's 4 by my count now. So obviously Harris, Nance, and then obviously the 2 Williams brothers there. So literally a third of our roster will be Kiwis next year, which is pretty remarkable. So they might be people in New Zealand's second team, I'd say. But I like it. He seems like a young, sort of pretty athletic guy that can come in and contribute straight away there. So look, you can tell that John Riley's got his stamp on the team this year. He's really selecting some of these players there. Really liking what I see from Ben Henschel. I've been checking out a lot of those COE games in the NBL 1 East, and I think he's going to fit in straight away with Perth. But no, it seems like a pretty good signing.
Yeah, well, there's a history of New Zealanders there. If you talk, Jared Kenny, Everard Bartlett, these kind of guys have been there. So, I think, and quite a big Kiwi
Dylan
population.
Boucher as well back in the day.
Dylan Boucher, yep, huge Kiwi population in Perth as well. So maybe that has something to do with it. Okay, the other signing, the really
I I think you're more excited about this one than what I am with Roscoe Nance.
DJ Hogg, man, perfect fit to come in and replace Xavier Cooks. A different style of player can bring some of the intangibles that Xavier Cooks did. Offers obviously a better shooter, and offensively his game's a little bit more advanced. Probably not the playmaker that Xavier Cooks was, but really like that signing, right? And I think
I'd say Woods. I think Cooks is the MVP, so I'm not going to say anything bad about him. I'd say that Hogg may be a more complete player than Cooks, because I think Hogg's still a pretty good defender. He's not the defender that Cooks is, but I think
he's very good.
He's a pretty good facilitator as well. He can certainly pass the ball, but I think his shooting is the big difference there. He's a great shooter there. We saw in the NBL semis and everything else like that, and some of those big games towards the end of the year. He's a big game player. So I think that's great. There's been a bit of rumour for a while about that, wasn't there, with Hogg going to Sydney?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think I just feel so sorry for them. The NBL really needs to look at this, because they develop some of the best talent who leave because they're priced out of the market, right?
Yeah.
I think it's quite unfair, right? Hogg, Pinder, Shannon Scott, all these guys are gone now, right, to other teams, right, on the back of building their reputation and their stock rose within that
Reminds me
camp.
a little bit of the Hawks last year. It's not often that you see two imports leave a team and then stay in the NBL. We saw it happen last year with Illawarra, obviously with Antonius Cleveland and with Rathan Mays, both finding new homes. And now we've seen that obviously with your boy going to Brisbane and then Hogg coming to Sydney now. So, yeah, it's interesting. Isn't
Well,
it?
the Hawks actually kept two imports, though. Now they've got Tyler Harvey and Justin Robinson, right?
So we've got to keep Tyler Harvey. Didn't they sign him to about a 20-year contract? But yeah, that's definitely the first domino, isn't it, for the Kings to lock him up there, and then they can start working on. I know you've mentioned a few other people. What were you saying? You want to get like Trey Burke or rock the jersey?
Someone like that, someone like that, like the point guards that we've got last year with Adams and last couple of years with Adams and Walton Jr. I mean, there's going to be a new coach coming in. I'm hearing they're going to talk to Matty Nielsen, right? Kevin Lish, I'd like to see Kevin Lish to get that opportunity. We'll see how that plays out. So the coach that's going to come in, that's probably going to be the next domino, and the coach will determine have a say in who he wants to bring in, right, to put alongside as the next two import slots, right?
But certainly a big signing though for the Kings. They've done well there.
All right, no worries. Okay, let's move on then, man. We've still got a little bit of that pack left.
Nice. Have you bought any more yet or what? How are we going with packs?
Oh, I've got a few packs left. I think I've got 3 or 4 left. 3 or 4 packs left, right? Nice. Before I have to get any more. All right, so let's do this. Okay. Great guard on the...
Tell viewers what this pack was again, Woods, in case I haven't
Okay, it was a 29 pack of Flair 93-94, okay?
Yep.
Instead of opening them all, we did them in 3 hits. I think there'll be about 11 or 12 in this one, right? I think we did 8 or 9 in the first 2 weeks, so we're going to complete them today. Okay, great guard from those Bulls teams. Then he's become a great player agent since.
BJ Armstrong.
Yep.
And that actually reminds me, what a bit of a segue there. He actually was in that 94 All-Star game that I spoke about. That's a nice card as well. In that 94 All-Star game with Kenny Anderson and Derrick Coleman, which was a bit of a shock pick at the time. I think he was averaging maybe 14 points that season. But yeah, he went on to have a good career. And like you said, he's kicking goals in his post-career too.
Where was he playing for at that time?
He was still with the Bulls then, yeah.
Was he? Oh, yeah, 94 he was. Yeah. 3-point field goal leader, of course. This is 94. So this is obviously he was still with the Bulls. Yeah, the 94 card, yeah. All right. Cavaliers legend. Son also played for the Cavaliers.
Larry Nance.
Nice.
I like that jersey. I've got an Antoine Jameson in that same style there, but yeah, he was great, Larry Nance.
Yep. Namesake of Karl Malone, also played for the Utah Jazz.
Oh, Jeff Malone.
Wow,
3 for 3 so far. I remember Jeff Malone had that famous shot. He might have even been playing for Washington then, where he was running out on the left-hand side of the court, pretty much fading away over the baseline and threw up this shot. It went in. I always remember that on, one of those basketball, videos back in the day that you'd watch 100 times.
Yep. Okay, back up big on those great Bulls team in the early 90s.
It's got to be a big white guy then, right?
No. Number 42.
Cliff.
No.
Number 42.
Yeah, went to North Carolina as well with Jordan.
Oh, Scott Williams, of course. Yeah.
Yep.
Nice, I've forgotten about him, yeah. Is that Lionel Simmons in the background as well?
The L Train.
It is. Shout out to the L Train.
Yep. All right, Bullets forward. I think he might have... Yeah, undrafted. Number 33. Odd number.
Not Mitchell Wiggins.
One of the great Tasmanian shooters has the same surname as this guy. Also played for your Perth Wildcats and Cairns Taipans.
So you're talking Steindl?
No. Of yesteryear.
David Close.
No. Played for the Cairns Taipans. Played for Tasmania. Played for Perth Wildcats. Won a championship with the Perth Wildcats in the 90s.
Well, I'm blanking on that. Has been a long
day
of work. But yeah.
Anthony Stewart and Larry Stewart is who I'm talking about.
Well, I definitely wouldn't have got that one. Yeah, Larry Stewart.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, 76ers forward, 6'9", went to Temple. We've pulled his card a few times before. I think
Charles
he might
Shackelford?
have played for Phoenix Suns before moving to Philadelphia.
Shackelford?
No.
What number again?
Number 25, I think. I can barely see it. Seventh pick, first round of the 88 draft.
Not the late Armand Gilliam.
No, Tim Perry.
Oh, Tim Perry. Okay. Yeah, he was in the Charles Barkley trade, of course, wasn't he?
Yep, sure was.
Mm-hmm.
Love these brothers. All the brothers are so much fun. The father was a absolute legend, very unlikable, but a legend.
John Barry, this one? Or?
John Barry, yes,
Nice.
You could have come up with any of them.
Nice, yeah, I like John Barry. It's, of course, had some pretty decent seasons with the Hawks as well in the 90s.
Yep. Great player for the Celtics and the Suns. Then Portland Trailblazers as well. Front office at yep. Now in the front office at Utah, right?
Rocking the 4-4, right? No, he's a 22 with nice.
Yeah, so it was just Portland, Sacramento, and Boston, and Phoenix. I think he played for. Correct? If I missed any teams?
Yeah, sounds right. Yeah.
Okay, bruising forward from those Trailblazers teams in the 90s that met Jordan's Bulls in the finals. Came off the bench.
Buck Williams?
No, Buck and Duck both started, right?
Okay.
This guy came off the bench.
Jerome Kersey?
No.
Off the bench.
21st pick in the 88 draft, number 2.
Number 2. Ooh.
You keep getting angry that his namesake is out of the Denver rotation.
Mark Bryant.
Mark Bryant, yeah.
I like that one, eh? Yeah.
That was a good clue.
Yeah, it was. Right? He's an assistant coach now, I think.
Yeah,
He's doing well. Yep.
Okay, great media personality. New York Knicks guard. Son is now at the Orlando Magic.
Cole Anthony, of course.
Yep, and so who's his father?
Greg Anthony. Yeah, Greg Anthony. Straight out of UNLV, the running Rebels.
Yep, sure is. Okay, one of your favorite players. A bit crazy in the head, Houston Rockets. I'm talking about...
Oh, Mad Max.
Vernon Maxwell.
Mad Max. Even just that look on his face. He was such a volatile player, wasn't he? He was either going to run and shoot a three there, or he was going to run and fight someone, I reckon, after that shot, after that photo was taken.
Yep. Oh, bro. Your Holy Grail jersey. We just talked about him, right?
Oh, Lionel Simmons.
The L Train.
Oh, that's a nice looking card, that one.
You want that card, don't you?
These are a pretty nice looking set, aren't they, these ones?
Really nice set. Love them.
Yeah. Is that it?
That's it, man.
That was a great big pack, wasn't it? As I said, collecting cards like we did in the 90s, I don't remember those. What was it, 29 cards in one pack, was it?
Yep.
Random number as well, just slightly. But yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I wonder what was in a normal one of those packs back in the day. Whether it was like 8 or 10.
I think 12 or 13.
12, was it? Okay. Yeah, so it's almost like a 2.5 pack sort of thing. But no, that was fun.
All right, yeah, real fun. Great episode. Really enjoyed it. Why don't you take the audience out with the usual information?
Sounds good, mate. So just a reminder where we can be followed. So we're on Twitter at Throwbacks Hoops. Instagram is throwback.hoops, and our email address throwbackhoopspodcast@gmail.com. Like we always say, if you've got any jersey suggestions or guests that you'd like to see us feature on the show, just reach out to us and we'll see what we can do. What about your shout-outs, Woods?
Patreon, thanks for everyone's support. Really appreciate it. That's pretty much it from me, man.
Nice. Well, look, we're hoping to get a star of the NBL 1 on next week, Woods. I'm just sort of finalising some details with this particular player there, but looking forward to do that. And then I've got another couple of good guests coming up in June. But, yeah, just really looking forward for these NBA finals to start. We're going to see Skittles making her first appearance on the show.
Yeah. She's been a good girl.
She hasn't made a noise. Yeah, looking a bit sorry for herself there, but, yeah, hopefully she recovers quick there. And looking forward to do it all again next week.
Yep, thanks everyone. Peace out.
Peace out.